Welcome to the Momnesia podcast, a podcast for moms where we share the stories we want to remember and the ones we wish we could forget. We're your hosts, Julie Short and Sarah McLaughlin.
Happy New Year, everybody. Happy New Year, Julie.
Oh, thanks, girl. Happy New Year.
Thank you. I am ready to turn the page on 2018. Are you?
I am. I'm ready to turn it, but it was a good one. I liked last year as well.
Good.
It was a good year.
So I really have been eager to ask you. One of the things I've seen a lot lately is the kind of prompt or meme to have a word of the year for 2019. Yeah. Are you a word person? Or are you a kind of setting lots of goals? What's it look like in terms of resolutions?
You know, last year I would have answered this differently.
Okay.
And it actually has to do with my word. I'm going to choose a word this year.
Okay.
I chose a word last year not because I wanted it to be some like guiding principle for the year.
You just wanted the shirt.
I just wanted the shirt. That was right when I had started my new skin business. And I was getting back on social media after being off of it for a while. After the election, I had kind of had my fill of social media.
I see.
And so I thought, if I'm going to get back on social media, I want to be intentional about how I use that medium to portray a message. And I wanted it to be a message of spreading kindness.
Cool. Yeah.
And just hoping that that would influence everything that I put up on my Facebook page.
Which I think it definitely has.
Oh, well, thank you.
Good work.
Thank you. So this year, I may have chosen a different word, but I may have also kind of been indifferent about it. But I was with Amy and John, our sister and brother, in Tennessee, and Amy was very adamant that we were going to have a word.
Okay. That was her word.
That
Make
was
people
her
have
word.
a word.
Yes. So we spent New Year's together, and we were going to have, we're going to reveal these words to each other for the new year. And my word was going to be to counterbalance stuff that I have been learning about myself through the Enneagram.
Okay.
I'm sure you guys have heard us talk about this before, but I am an 8 wing 7, and they have what's called the deadly sin.
Ooh, dun, dun, dun.
Yes. Sounds very ominous, for each of the types. And the deadly sin of the 8 is lust.
Okay.
And the deadly sin of the 7 is gluttony.
Okay.
And lust is not in the, hey, let's get it on kind of lust.
All right.
It's more of like a lust for life of like wanting it all.
Yes.
And same with the gluttony. So those kind of go hand in hand for me, and I see it play out in my life in a variety of different ways.
Okay.
And typically, you know, I approach that with my health as well, and to kind of go to the extremes. So, you know, usually I'll set a goal of like, I'm going to do Whole30. I'm going to cut out all the carbs, all the sugar, all the dairy, I'm going to do all these things.
Yep.
And I'm able to do it for like 30 days. And then I'm like, okay, give me all the cookies, all the ice cream, all the pizza, I just go to extremes.
Yep.
So my word for this year is moderation.
Okay. Gotcha.
And that's going to guide kind of how I approach different aspects of my life. And I've already started to kind of see it play out. Like I said, in that I'm not going to make those extreme goals, but I am going to try new things. And so that's kind of the route that I'm taking this year. And I have probably
Very good.
3 or 4 things that I'm excited to be trying right now. And the first one is celery juice. You know what? I actually like it.
All right.
I know it sounds not that tasty.
Sounds a little spicy, to be honest.
Oh, really? No, it's really, well, this is and as you start to get into the juicing world, people will be like,
Oh, okay. You're a juicer now.
I'm a juicer now. Do you do the mastication cold press, or do you do the centrifugal juicing?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I got a mastication juicer.
I have never, ever heard that word.
It talks about how like the grinding or how the juice gets out of whatever fruit or vegetable you are juicing at the time. Gotcha. And it's really silky smooth, and like I can down it easily. And so this is the other part of it. The whole reason that I got on this kick was because both of my sisters, Karen and Amy, are doing this based off of stuff they have been seeing on Instagram and through this book from the medical medium. Have you heard of the medical medium?
No, and I was already mystified by what you've mastified.
Girl,
so go ahead and this is confound me more.
Only the tip of the iceberg.
Okay.
I don't know how I feel about this.
Okay.
I'm typically pretty skeptical by nature. And so when Amy gave me this book to read, I was like, what?
Right.
I don't know about this. But this guy claims to be a medium.
Okay.
So he hears directly from what he calls the
celery?
The celery guy. He hears from the celery. No, he hears from the Spirit Most High, which he refers to as Spirit.
Okay.
Who is not God and is not an angel, but he is a word. And he is the word compassion. And he sits at the right hand of God.
Okay.
And what this word, it has only appeared to him like twice. It was the very first time when he was 4 years old. It took on the form of what he kind of said is like to be a male figure in a robe.
Wow.
And speaks clearly to him from outside. It's not a voice that he hears within. It is a voice that he hears outside of himself. And the Spirit identifies the medical maladies that are going on within people's body.
Okay.
So he's at Thanksgiving dinner and at age of 4, and he starts to hear this voice. He doesn't know what's going on, but he sees this man standing behind his grandma, and no one else can see him. And he says, lung cancer. Tell her she has lung cancer.
All right.
So he says, Grandma has lung cancer. The spirit goes away.
Pass the mashed potatoes. Okay.
Can you pass the gravy?
Wow.
And so she's like, I'm not sick. I'm fine. But they're all freaked out by this 4-year-old kid saying, no, you got lung cancer.
Sure, yeah.
Goes to the doctor, and sure enough, she has lung cancer. So the whole, there's a whole first chapter or two that just talks about his journey with this and how this gift shows up like once every few centuries. And
oh, wow.
Most people can't handle it and end up taking their own life because it is a very overwhelming thing, because every person you see, it's kind of like in that Jim Carrey movie when people are praying and he starts hearing all these voices and everybody's asking.
Bruce Almighty.
Yeah. It's kind of like that. And so it can feel very overwhelming.
Sure.
But he decides, I don't know, as a teenager, okay, I'm going to embrace this. This is my life. This is my calling. I'm going to do this. So he has these books. He's got this Instagram following, and he kind of specializes in mystery things. Illness. Okay. Yeah. No one can figure out what's wrong with you. Spirit will he can look at you. Spirit will tell him what's wrong with you. And the Spirit will tell him how to fix it.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I don't know how I feel about all of that, but I'm going to try celery juice.
Okay.
Because
start somewhere.
That's kind of his big thing is everybody should be drinking celery juice.
It's just kind of an all around.
It's an all around good thing for you. It helps detoxify the liver, and the liver is really what helps your body process and function at its highest capacity.
Interesting. Yeah.
So I'm not going to like take away everything, but I am going to add celery juice.
Okay.
And just see how it makes me feel.
Yeah.
How does it affect? I mean, he says it affects everything.
Right. I might try that.
Okay.
My dad always says,
join the party.
Be a student, not a follower. So, take something from a little bit from everything, see how it goes. You don't have to follow. You don't have to know what you believe about all of it yet.
Yep. And if I don't like it, if I decide I don't want to do it every day, then I'm not going to beat myself up about it. I'm like,
right.
Oh, okay, I tried that. That was fun.
Right.
Move on.
Right.
But that kind of goes with that moderation, not going to extremes.
Right.
Okay. So the other thing, so that was the celery. The other thing I'm going to be doing is trying to start a meditation practice.
Okay.
Someone at work turned me on to the podcast 10% Happier with Dan Harris.
I haven't heard of that.
Yeah. Dan is a news anchor or correspondent, I think for ABC.
Okay.
And like 10 years ago, he had a panic attack live on air.
Oh, wow.
And he started this journey of like dealing with anxiety and panic attacks and incorporated meditation. And his thing is it's meditation for fidgety people, or he hates the kind of like the mumbo jumbo around it. He just is like, get down to the basics. This is what you do.
Okay.
And so he has a podcast with it. It's called 10% Happier. And
Interesting.
he interviews people who have their own meditation practice. And one of the very first ones that he does is with Rivers Cuomo, who is the lead singer of Weezer. And I loved it. And it was just so fascinating. So they have an app that you can download and try and do a trial. And so I'm starting with that trial to see if this is something I like. And if I like it, I'll keep doing it. If I don't, I won't. So that's another thing that I'm kind of trying to do. Let's see. Celery juice, meditation.
Julie, have you ever had a panic attack?
Oh, yes.
You have?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yep. That is one of the reasons I started going to counseling.
Okay. Yeah. I was just curious. Yeah, I definitely have too. So that sounds really interesting.
Yeah. We could do a whole episode on that.
Yeah. It'd be so fun.
Yes. And then I have two more. The third one is a panda planner. That was another thing that I started exploring last year is, yes, I like my digital calendar on my phone, but I wanted something that was going to allow me to kind of do some like goal setting and planning.
Right.
And so I did a big like review of a whole bunch of different planners, and I ended up going with an Erin Corndon, I think is the name of it.
Nope, never heard of her.
It's really pretty and cute, but it's just like a pretty calendar, pretty paper bound calendar, and they've got stickers and colors and blah, 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 blah. It's pretty. I did it like for the first 3 months and it just wasn't fitting my needs. So I went to the second one that I liked just this year. I finished that, starting with a new one. And this is the Panda Planner. The Panda Planner, it's a 90-day planner that's blank. Oh. And it is based off of the practices of positive psychology.
Okay.
And it is broken down. There's a month section, a week section, and then a day-by-day section. And each one of them has you kind of focusing on goals, gratitude, things you want to improve, top priorities. And so I really like how it's laid out. I've only been doing it for a few days now.
Sure.
But I am enjoying it so far. So that's one of the ways I'm trying to help organize my life.
Yeah. But it's 90 days?
Yep. Because
so you
they
have to
realize
get 4 of them for the year,
but they realize you may not need, or you may not be consistent in it. So you fill it in. And so if I skip 2 weeks, that's why I feel like the other one, it was just a whole bunch of blank pages and I couldn't go back and ever use those again because they had the dates on it. So let's say I only do it for a month and then I wait and I'm like, oh, I kind of fell off the wagon. but I'm going to start it back up again.
Gotcha.
Okay. Well, then I'm going to go, and now I can start with March.
Okay.
And so it allows you kind of some flexibility to not use it every day.
Okay.
If it's not working for you.
Yeah.
So once again, moderation.
Right.
I'm not committed to a full year. I'm committed to 90 days. Kind of see how that works. The other thing this one is one we're doing with a family, and this one has been pretty fun.
Okay.
Did you guys see that video of like some solid land mass the size of Texas of waste like floating out in the ocean?
No.
Kind of led to everybody talking about giving up straws. Well,
Oh yeah. Okay.
Colin and the kids really wanted us to give up straws for the year.
Fight for something. Yeah.
I didn't really care about the straws.
Okay.
But I am getting on board with it.
Yeah.
On them. So we have purchased some reusable straws.
Like metal? Are they metal ones?
Straws that we will be able to take with us and use. And so we're anxious to see how that goes.
Cool.
On our road trip home, that was quite fun.
Yeah.
And not having plastic straws.
Right.
And we didn't have the metal ones yet.
Uh-huh.
So everyone's taking off their lids in the car, drinking while we're
Oh yeah.
not ideal. But hey,
Right.
saving that planet.
Saving that planet.
So those are kind of my 4 areas that
Okay.
I'm working on.
Okay.
What about you? Do you have a
Well,
word? You said you're not a word person.
I'm not really a word person normally because I fear that I will justify decisions I'm making and force them into a word. Like I will find a way to convince myself that I still fulfilled the word. So I'm
You
more
are very convincing.
Yes. My conniving self will trick my other self. So I'm normally more on the goal side of things. We went out to dinner with my parents and siblings the other night, and we were talking about goals. My dad has always been big on like encouraging us to write our goals down. And he has this really cool story about, he listened to, like a motivational speaker named Jim Rohn for years and years.
Oh, yeah.
And do you know that name?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
He's big in like the network marketing world.
Yeah. So, partly because my dad's dad passed when he was young. And I think he really, at the point in his life in his 20s where he wanted to find himself in his career, he found a lot of wisdom in Jim Rohn, and he's big on helping people write down their goals. So my dad was just reminding us the other night of this story where he listened to this with Jim. He wrote down his goals. He lost the journal. And then like a handful of years later, he got the journal and he realized every single one he had achieved and met.
Oh, wow.
And he swears that it's because he wrote it down. And so I got away from it for a while because I actually started to have this quandary about if my goal was something that had a material component, or like I really want new countertops in my house.
Of course.
And I'm like,
who doesn't?
right. But I was like, if I make a goal to do that, am I somehow saying I'm not grateful for what I have, or that life is about that and stuff like that? And this year, I'm kind of feeling like I'm going back to that writing down of goals, because there are things I want to achieve. And I know that life isn't about countertops and material things. So it's okay that I can have that goal and still know that it's not about that.
Girl, I have a whole episode of a podcast that you need to listen to.
Okay, what is it?
Called the Mind Your Business podcast.
Okay.
And it talks about how a hang up that a lot of people have in reaching goals tend to be on monetary goals. And because there's 4 main things. And of course, we didn't talk about this ahead of time, so I may not remember them all. But one of them is I don't deserve the money. I don't deserve the countertops.
Right.
The other one is, why should I have this much money when others don't have it?
Right.
So why should I have these countertops when other people don't? I seriously want you to listen to it.
Yeah.
I thought it was really helpful for me, and it helped identify some kind of roadblocks that I have in reaching some financial goals myself.
Yeah, I want to hear that.
It was really good.
I think because of some of these ideas and goals, I did come up with a word this year because I found that they were centering around a certain theme, and
Money.
And one of the things about 2018 that made me ready to turn the page was I felt like there were some pretty negative voices and fixtures in our life that took a lot of energy. Now, whether that's just because I allowed it or whether it's because they were just so oppressive and noisy that it was impossible to avoid, I felt like this year I had this big goal and hope, and resolutions were revolving around the theme of reclaiming my own life.
Okay.
And so my word is reclaim.
Okay.
I've even thought about getting a tattoo. No joke. And I am not a tattoo person. I don't get it. I'm like, it's permanent, but like, they freak me out. I'm so like, it's so important to me at this point to say, it's my life. Nobody gets to decide, even to the countertops. I'm like, I work hard. I'm an adult. It's the area where I spend most of my time. And I just want to reclaim little areas, both materially, spiritually, socially. It's my time. It's my life. So reclaim is a big theme. Another one, and you spoke to this a little bit with doing like balls to the walls, hardcore dieting, letter of the law kind of thing. And I have done Whole30 a number of times. I've done keto off and on last year. And really anything that I stick with will work. It's just what is stickable.
Yeah.
And again, with the reclaiming, I don't want to release that part of me to some master plan or rule. I think I've been kind of entering this year, like baking is an important part of our family. And if it's going to be part of our family, what's the way that fits in? Well, it's that kind of moderation idea. Like maybe Whole30 isn't really for me. Maybe just like a bunch of healthy things and sometimes having ice cream with my kids, because I can do that. I get to decide. I don't know if this is making sense.
It doesn't have to make sense. We're still feeling it out.
Yeah.
So
true.
I think that's the whole part of what both of us are feeling right now is we don't have to have it figured out.
Yeah.
We can try it today. And if we don't like it, we can stop it tomorrow.
Yeah, true.
That there's no shame in that.
Yeah. The other thing that's big for me is just simplifying. And I don't know what that's going to look like yet, but particularly in December when I worked a lot and the house just kind of fell apart more and more. I mean, Jeff and I were both doing as much as we could, and we were kind of understanding that like this will get better over break and we're just going to kind of roll with it right now and we can't do a lot. I feel like we're not just to where we need to pick up. We actually need major overhauls of a lot of areas. And that's going to need to like, not just be cleaning the room, but like some different routines and ways of thinking about it. And so trying to figure out what that looks like. So we're not just digging through clutter all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too. I definitely think that we are trying to live into that simplification as well.
Yeah. I'm sure there are going to be lots of things we hear and shows and books. So whenever you're honest, it's like when you are thinking about buying a Honda.
Every Honda is out there.
Yeah. You see
Law of attraction, girl.
Yeah. So we're going to figure it out. It'll come to us.
All right. Well, you know what? I think it's time to bring on our guest.
Yes.
We've been rambling long enough about these goals and words and all that good stuff. Let's get somebody else in here to talk with us.
You're going to hear from Turae Mumford, who has a bit of a non-traditional approach to parenting. Let's go get her.
Okay.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm thrilled to have a dear friend of mine that goes way, way back. And we had a guest recently, Tamar, if you heard that episode, that was another friend I made through Indianapolis Children's Choir. And we talked about the special bonds that are made when you travel the world together and meet at a young age. And even if you don't see each other for decades, you've shared an art form, you've shared something, some big cultural experience. And that's something Turae and I have. Now, I have to say that she is just a few years ahead of me. And when you're kids, 3 years makes a big difference. She was like the cool kid, top dog of the choir. I mean, cool kids in a choir, but I really looked up to her. So I'm kind of a, crushing. This is my fangirl moment to be in the same room. Turae and I reconnected recently because we both have these twins that are running circles around us. And I ran into her at IKEA just this spring, and we've been friends on Facebook, but it was like, wow, I think the Lord really rekindled something. So Turae, welcome.
Thank you. It's so funny to have a fan. That's funny. Because when I was at ICC as well, when I came in, I always thought about the older kids. I'm like, oh my gosh, look at them. They're so cool. And then all of a sudden you become the older kids and you're like, this was nothing. Dun, dun, dun. No, right.
Yeah.
I really think that we should reach out to ICC, see if they want to be sponsors of this podcast.
You know what? I think that should always, I know.
Right. Probably. Well, I know pieces of your story and I'm super wowed. And I think, as we talked about in the kind of briefing before we went live here, there are some non-traditional aspects to what makes parenting and the journey for you. But why don't you tell us who you are? Just give us kind of a professional snapshot and how you became a parent.
Right. Well, professionally, I went to school at the University of Evansville. I'm a Purple Ace, studied political science and international studies, studied abroad and thought, oh, for sure, I'm going to live abroad. After the experience as a choir.
Right. Where'd you live?
London, or outside of London. And so I said, I'll just, I'm going to finish my degree and come back here. And so that was my plan. And the Lord had another plan. I met this gentleman who led me to Christ, believe it or not.
Okay.
And my mom said, well, you need to come home for the holidays. And I'm like, okay. So I came home and he proposed. And so I'm like, well, I guess I won't be going back.
Well, you could have brought him with you, girl.
I wanted him to come, but if anybody knows my Mr. Mumford, he is not traveling. He is not doing that. So not option. But anyway, so came home and then started working for the Indiana House of Representatives. Did that for a stint. And then that parlayed into some other things professionally. Worked on political campaigns and then was out in D.C. for a while. And that was pretty fun. And then DC. I do too. Don't you love just the mass transit and the culture and the, anyway, that's so a whole other sidebar conversation.
Yes,
yeah. But yeah, so, and then I found myself about to turn 40 and realized, and my parents were older. It's like, it's time to come home. And my political mentor at the time, State Representative Bill Crawford, said, Turae, you cannot change D.C., but we raised you and we educated you. You can change Indianapolis. It's time for you to come home.
Oh, wow.
And so I said, oh, okay. And my husband and I were trying to have children at the time as well. And so I'm like, take a year and just relax and this will happen.
Right.
And it didn't happen.
Right. Yeah.
So that kind of parlays into how I, professionally, and then how I became a mom. So, like I said, we had been trying and it just didn't work the way God wanted it to work for us. And it sounds kind of funny, but literally it did happen this way. I went to go check my mailbox.
Like most desiring mothers do.
Right, exactly. Not the birds and the bees. My mother never told me about checking the mailbox. And so, it went to check the mailbox. And it's funny because when you tell God, like, hey, I want to be done by 40. And my prayer was to be done by 40 because I didn't want to be a geriatric mother,
Right.
I wanted
that's over 35.
I know, right?
So you are well past that.
I was pushing it. Well, my mother had me in her mid 40s. So I knew I wanted it, I was like, Lord, I want it to be done by 40 and I want to have multiples. That was my prayer.
Okay.
Yeah. Multiples, be done by 40, and I turned 40 February the 9th, and nothing happened. So I was like, God, I'm through. And, everything is shut down. This is not going to happen.
You didn't work according to my plan.
Right, to my plan.
Yes.
Isn't that funny? And so a couple months later, I go to check my mailbox, and our neighbor was carrying this pack and play. And I said, well, what are you doing? And he said, my wife didn't tell you about our granddaughter. And I'm like, no. And she says, oh, Turae, come up and meet my granddaughter. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So I go up and I meet Alana, and I knew she was my daughter. I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything about the story. I didn't know anything about her background.
You just thought you were going to take someone else's baby in that moment?
I am giving the strangest look to Turae right now. I don't know this story. I don't know where this story is going.
Right. Yeah.
But I know she's just met her neighbor's grandchild, and that's her child. So Please explain.
I know, exactly. So I said, this is my daughter. And I couldn't explain it. I just knew it. And she was like, oh, Turae, I was hoping that you could help me with her. And I said, oh, okay. Yeah, I can help you. I've got some time because, Lord, you didn't do what I said I needed to happen. And I said, sure. I hadn't really figured out what was next for me professionally. So of course I help. And then she's like, yes, because she has a twin sister. And as soon as I heard that, I just started crying. And she's like, are you okay? And I'm even tearing up now. And I said, of course I'm okay. But in the back of my mind, I thought I just met my daughters.
But you didn't know. I mean, you just thought this is this lady's granddaughters.
Yes, I didn't know it. Honestly, God's honest truth. Yeah. And so I said, okay, well, I need to compose myself. So let me go back to my little condo and just sit. And I just remember just sitting. Sitting still. And the day had gone, and I remember calling my husband saying, you need to come home. You just need to come home. And
don't want to alarm you, but I checked the mail and I got some twins.
Didn't even tell him anything. I was just like, I should come home. And so he came home, and this is how the story gets a little fuzzy. He remembers one way, I remember the other. Okay. But he said that I had Alana downstairs when he came home, and he walked in and said, is that our daughter?
Because you thought the grandmother was just raising her. Did you even know that?
No, I didn't know anything.
You didn't know anything.
None of that mattered to me.
Right. I mean, you just had
these were my daughters. Right. I mean, I'm just going to meet my daughter's family, but these were my daughters. And so met Alana, and my husband said, that's our daughter. And I'm like, yeah, I think it is. It's the craziest thing.
Yeah, it is.
Crazy. And so before I knew it, that was on a Tuesday. Wednesday, I had a car seat sitting outside of my door. And I said, okay, well,
like you ordered this?
No. The grandmother said, I need you to take her to the doctor. And I said, okay, wait a minute, hold up, reverse.
Yeah.
So so I said, okay. She's like, I'll meet you there, because she's like, I need to run and see the other daughter.
Right.
And I said, okay, that's no problem. So we went, and we went to the doctor, and I'm like, I can't believe I have this baby. And she's like, okay, now take her back home with you.
You're like, this is my neighbor.
Right. And it's so funny because I got a chance to get the whole backstory on Alana and why grandmother was caring for her. And I won't go into that detail just for reasons of keeping identity. But,
sure.
I found out the whole story, and I found out a true grandmother's love. And only thing the grandmother kept telling me was, it's just not a really great situation. And so these are going to be your children. And I'm like, huh? And I'm like, I know they're my children. But she was just reiterating, these need to be your children because it's just not really not a great situation. And I said, okay. So fast forward, Wednesday night, I'm taking the baby because the other one was still in the hospital to Bible study. Okay. And everybody's looking at us like, because my husband's a pastor, and they were looking at us like, where did this come from?
Your plus one?
Right. But by Thursday, honestly, I had pack and plays, bottles, everything to fit a nursery. Because the church just found out, and they were like, okay, we're in it with you. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm in. And so that's kind of my story to motherhood. The second daughter came home, I think a month later. And so we've been in Alana and Alasia's life since they were 2 months old. And it's the strangest situation. Not strange. It's a beautiful situation.
Yeah.
Where everybody gets to love on these girls. Everybody gets to love on them, and they feel that, and they're happy, and they're safe, and somebody calls me mom. So, I mean, I get the best of both worlds.
And how old are they now?
2.5. They'll be 3 February.
Okay.
So the end of February, the beginning of March. So yeah, not terrible twos. I say terrific twos. I just keep telling myself they're terrific.
Just keep telling yourself that.
Keep telling it, and maybe it might turn out that way.
Right, I know. They're terrific. So yeah, it's a very unique way to motherhood, but it's but motherhood is still the same all within itself. It still has all those intricacies and those wonderful potty training moments and all that kind of stuff.
So when you say you're mothering them, obviously you're approaching this very open-handed that it may look totally different in a year or 10 years. I mean, can you speak to that at all?
That's the hard part. And that's truly the hard part because, looking at it, when we started this relationship, we told the mother and the father we want to do 3 things. We said we want to be part of the village that loves them. We want to raise them in the fear and the admiration of the Lord, and we want to pay for their education. That's the three things that we said we wanted to do. And my husband said he didn't agree. He's like, I didn't remember the third part of paying for the education. He's so silly. I'm like, he said, that was something you said. I'm like, okay, but still, they still need to be educated. So they still need to pay for. So those were the three things. It was never, we want to take them. It was never, we want them to be Mumford babies. It was never, we want to change their name. You know, because we feel as though we need to raise healthy girls with healthy family bonds and family relationships, and pray that, that they make the right choices. So back to your question. Yeah, it's scary. Because they've been taken from us before. And that was something, it happened abruptly. We weren't expecting it. Mom and Dad were like, okay, we got it together. We're ready, you know? Yeah. And we were like, I was like, huh? Right. Wait a minute. You know, and that's when you had to sit back and let life happen. Right. For them to realize that, no, maybe I'm not ready. Okay. And maybe the situation that they're in with the Mumfords is better for them right now. And that takes a lot for a parent to say that. And so it's, you know, but it softens my heart for those parents who lose children. You know, because we were blessed, we were able to see them and get them, you know, and they became incorporated back in our lives, you know, a couple months later. But I think about those parents, you know, my father lost a son, my mother's lost a son. And I think about they don't see them physically, can see them. And it's a scary thing. But I always think that the same Lord that gave me the heart to love these babies is the same Lord that would mend my heart if it's ever broken. Yeah. Because it's going to be broken. You know, our hearts are going to be broken, but but I can't love these girls thinking that my heart's going to be broken. I've got to love them unconditionally because that's what they need. Right. Yeah.
So I'm still trying to wrap my head around this.
Go to the mailbox.
Yeah. So are you still living in the same place? Like, is grandma still next door?
Well, and yeah. So what had happened was, unfortunately, grandfather passed away about a year ago. It was a little over a year ago. Okay. And he had been our neighbors we've been married 18 years. He'd been our neighbors for like 17 of those 18 years, or 16. And so he recently passed away and grandma moved out. But what's interesting enough that tells you about this village, grandma said, I'm not moving far. She literally moved in the apartments across the street. Okay. So she's like, I'm not changing any of this. This is great, you know, and so no, and the interesting thing enough, so all the different sets of grandparents and there's no territorial piece. Okay. You know, there's no, this is my grandchildren, you know, they let my dad love on them. They let my mom love on them. They they love the whole concept, and it's just non-traditional and it works. Right. Yeah.
So you were saying, you alluded to your story, which I know is going to be the piece of sharing, like what you want to remember, what you want to forget. So give us some of those details more.
Yeah. So what I remember, what I want to forget is the same thing. So my girls were, it was Mother's Day Eve. And family was so excited that I was finally a mother. Cause you know, my mom and I think my dad had written me off. Yeah. Just like, she's going to be a career woman. Right. Yeah. And I think my husband's family as well, were just like, they're never going to have kids. And so when we had them for a good month before we shared them with anybody.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Because we didn't know. Sure. You know, and it's a scary thing. We didn't want to get people involved. And so we didn't say anything. But so it was Mother's Eve night. I'll never forget it. And everybody was coming to our house. Everybody was excited about the babies. And I get a knock on the door, and it's Mom and Dad. And they're like, yeah, you know, we're okay. And we want our girls back. And granted, I'd never met the mother. And so I was kind of jarred by it all.
Oh, like, yeah.
Excuse me, you know, but it was interesting, but the Lord told me to give them back. You know, it wasn't like, no, you can't take them. I don't know what it was, as if there was a peace about it. I was devastated. Sure. It's an understatement. Like in the bathrobe for 3 days with the bonbons and the ice cream. Bonbons and ice cream. So it was pretty bad. But I had a peace about giving them. I'm like, we have to do it.
Did you know, once again, because you probably didn't have any official air quotes say in the matter, but did you feel like they were going back to a safe place? Did you feel like obviously you said you had a peace about it, but that's where my mind goes is it safe to just hand these babies back over if it was a bad situation?
Right. It was
I don't know what that means.
Right. And I found out what the situation was. I wasn't fearful for them. I was not fearful for them. I knew that the Lord was going to take care of them. I don't know how I knew. I just knew that he was going to do it. And so there wasn't a time where I was like, oh my gosh, are they going to be saved? I mean, that did cross my mind, but it wasn't, maybe it's because I'm looking back at it.
Maybe,
but I didn't feel like, oh my gosh, they're not going to be well. But I did worry because they had asthma, and I'm like, well, are they getting their treatments? Are they, that mommyhood thing kicked in immediately. Right. But I never felt like they weren't going to be okay.
Yeah. Because you knew you had to do that. You knew what you had to do. Yeah.
I know I had to do it. I had to let life happen. Got to let life happen. And, it was a very hard situation, but let me tell you the beautiful thing that came out of all of it.
Okay.
Beautiful thing that came out of it. So it's a story I want to remember and I want to forget. I want to forget because I want to forget the pain and the 10 pounds I gained eating the ice cream in 12 months. I don't want to forget that part. But what I want to remember is the beautiful relationship that came out of it. So fast forward 3 months or so.
Because how old were they then?
They were 6 months or so, 6-7 months. And they weren't saying mommy or daddy yet. They weren't really, doing any of that stuff. And they weren't walking. Because I remember handing them literally, handing them over.
Yeah.
They were about 4 or 5 months. So, but what came out of it, beautiful thing. What came out of it is a beautiful relationship with their biological mother.
Okay.
And we had a conversation. I remember asking for her number and being afraid to call it. Because I think I was fearful that she may say, no, you will never be able to see them again. So I had her number and I didn't call it and I didn't call it. And then finally, I'll never forget, we were setting up for church. And I said, I'm going to call it right now. And I got in my car and we talked for 2 hours.
And this was like 3 months later?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
We talked for 2 hours. And I have so much respect for her. I mean, just beyond respect for her because she was being a mom. And she said, Turae, I didn't know you. She said, and I didn't know if my kids were safe. I just knew that they were at a neighbor's and I didn't know the full story and I didn't know anything about you. And she's like, I want all my kids with me on Mother's Day. And I want, and I was able to really hear her heart.
Wow.
And you have 2-3 women, grandmother, because the grandmother is on the father's side. The mother's on the father's side. So you have a grandmother and a biological mother and a, godmother / what you call me, who love these girls. And we all love them in the way that we think that's best for them. And so that's what it took. It took that conversation with her. And we found out our ministry was not our girls. Our ministry was the entire family. Our ministry was we were going to be the stabilizers, right? We were going to show that there can be another way, that, we believe in family unity. We believe in the love of Christ. And it was interesting because when we first started doing things, they were like, oh, here's this gift, or here, we'll give you this for that, or here's this. We don't want any of that. We don't want any of that. Because that's not what this is about.
You mean people were giving you gifts to help with the girls? Like
like their family. Their family was like, oh, here, let me help pay for that. Or here, let me help.
Okay.
And I was like, no.
Because there was no scale of like owing.
Yeah, that's it, Sarah. That's it. And it was like, well, this isn't it. A sacrifice, but it's a sacrifice that we willingly do. We're parents. There's sacrifice that we willingly do. I said, but us is a little differently because we're willingly doing it. Because, we can give these kids back if we wanted to, but you guys couldn't, and so, I know sometimes you probably want to, but, so it's just a different kind of love. And one of the things that I'm reminded of every day. It's a prayer that I pray all the time, and I love it. It's in Colossians, not First Colossians. There's only one Colossians. Not to confuse you for listeners, but Paul is exhorting the church, and he says this powerful thing that that you will have multiple fruit, that you have much fruit, right? And I love this verse that I've been quoting it for a long time, and that you may walk in a manner worthy, that you will grow in spiritual wisdom, but that you will walk in a manner worthy of the Lord. And so for me to be able to say that this is what I believe that Christ is for me, this is what I believe that God is for me, and not walk in it, then I won't see an increase. I won't see me growing in faith. I won't see, and that's what this truly has been. It's been a test of faith, because at any moment, they can say, oh, this has been great, Sure. And it would it break my heart, as I said before? Of course it would. But I know that if it's 3 years, if it's 5 years, if it's 6 years, these girls have stability and they have families that love them. And it's funny because we have family meetings. We'll all get together and say, okay, how are the girls doing? What's going on?
Okay,
and
pause.
It's like town hall.
We have to pause because they were just taken away.
Yeah.
When did they come back?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know about that.
And even before that, in that 3 months, did you have any contact with? Okay.
No, we had one visit and it was very tough. And let me tell you, we had one visit and I'll never forget. So we had this one visit and it's amazing. We went to go see him and the father greeted us and the mother came down and she wouldn't even talk to me. And
yeah, I'm sure you were a threat to her.
I was a threat and she didn't know. And so this was before the phone call. So yeah, they came back. But during that time, no, it was just a lot of, Lord, what did you do? And my family was worried and the ones who knew about the babies and the ones who didn't were like, what's wrong with Turae? She's, picked up this weight. What's going on with her? The bonbons are not of God. So anyway, it was hard. And my parents being protective and like, you got to get it legal. You've got to get these things in place. But that's not what the Lord was telling my heart to do. My Lord was telling my heart that if they come back, open them back with open arms.
Okay.
Yeah. And so they came back.
So the phone call happened and then
I was like, okay.
How much longer?
Yeah, so the phone call happened. It wasn't a phone call. It was a knock on the door in June. No, August. Knock on the door. And I was like, okay, well, if we're going to do this again, we now have parameters. And these are our parameters. Our parameters are we're having family meetings. Everybody's going to be on the same page. We're not hiding anything from anybody. We need to be able to communicate freely and openly. We need to be able to, and to have each other's numbers if things happen, and so that's what it's been, and it's worked. And strangely enough, it has worked.
If you made a rendering of this thought and concept,
yeah.
I don't think we co-share our guinea pigs with some people, and that's not even going well. So I can't see ever without something just bigger than what we can see.
It is
working.
I know it is.
It does sound crazy.
It does.
They came back 3 months later.
Yeah, about 2 to 3 months later.
And so this is still they're like 9 months old.
Yeah,
and they've been with you ever since.
And they said, we really can't do this.
No,
yet,
and it wasn't we really can't do this yet. It was I need help.
Okay.
And like, okay, we can help. And so this is what our help is going to look like.
Okay.
Our help is still we want to raise them. Our help is still we want to raise them in the fear of the Lord. Our help is still we want to pay for their education.
Right. Maybe. Wink.
Yeah. Wink, wink, wink. Right. So those are still the three helping. And so the schedule's crazy. I have on off days. I know like I have them these couple days. We have this crazy kind of, Gantt chart looking schedule thing. And our life is planned around the girls. Our life is planned about when we have them, when we don't have them, what we can get in, what we like, even just coming tonight. And I'm like, okay, so we have them tonight. So that means I need Maurice to make sure that dinner gets done. No, wait a minute. Maurice getting dinner done is not going to work. So I've got to, so it's, it's what every family goes through, but it's just a little bit more complicated with us.
Yeah.
Kind of like a blended family.
That's what it is.
Yeah. But not
a blended
by marriage.
Yeah.
But by child.
By child. I know.
Yeah.
Who would have thunk?
That is so,
right.
I'm like, my mind is blown right now.
Right.
I'm
when you say
amazed.
It that way, somebody needs to make a TV show about that.
Yeah.
I know. Well,
or a sitcom maybe.
Right. And it's interesting is the fact that it's a cultural, I think it might be cultural as well because, everybody had an aunt who helped raise them. Everybody had a grandmother that helped raise them. We just happen to have godparents that are very influential in these girls' lives and call me mommy. you know, call my husband daddy and have a hissy fit when we walk away and are excited when we see them at school. And I mean, those are the joys of my heart. I mean, those are truly the joys of my heart. So the Lord answered my prayer. He didn't answer it the way I thought he would answer it. I didn't go through the gestation. I didn't have the baby. I didn't have the baby shower. I didn't have any of that stuff.
Well, you went to get the mail.
I know, right? How dare I?
Right.
So, but he still answered my prayer.
Sure.
Right. He still gave me the desire of my heart. And I have little people, who call me mommy, like constantly, like there's no quiet in the house. Mommy, mommy, mommy. I'm like, I've always wanted to hear that, but I don't know if 24/7 is what I want to hear.
Yeah.
So it's a cool thing.
And there's no way you could have like thought that up.
No. I know. We need to write a book.
I was just going to say that.
I know.
Yeah.
We need to write a book. Go on tour.
Yeah.
Think about it. It's the craziest thing, but it works.
So I do wonder, because we went straight from, you used to work in politics to getting the mail.
Yeah.
Are you working now?
No.
So what are you doing?
Yeah. So nobody tells you this, you know. So I stayed home with him for a while, and then I found out about losing your identity. And I literally did. I'm like, well, at first I lost it because it was in working in government and working in, I was like the up and coming, like, oh, Turae, she's going to run for this, or Turae, she's going to be great doing this. And then my husband accepted his call into ministry. So it was Pastor Mo this, Pastor Mo that, and you kind of lost, you know, and there's his wife, you know, you're like, oh, okay, that's cool, whatever. And then you add on that, oh no, those are the twins' mom.
Right.
So then I'm doubly blown. And that's hard as being raised as, you know, I have older siblings, but I was raised as an only child. And, you know, I think my girlfriend and I laughed that I peaked at 16, you know, that was going to be the best I'll ever be. Right. I was at 16 when we were in tour.
Right. I was going to say, I
cool
remember
kid.
you at 16.
You're like, yeah, you did peak then.
I did peak at 16. And so I lost myself a little bit, and I realized it's okay. It was okay, because what am I losing myself to? I'm losing myself to what I'm called to do. I'm losing myself to supporting my husband, and that's what I'm called to do. I'm losing myself to mothering and loving these girls as much as I possibly can. So it's okay. But it took me a minute to say that it was okay, because society tells me that, oh, I've got to have this, I've got to have that, and, you know, and so I would, you know, be on Facebook, and then I would have to get off of Facebook and realize that whatever my counterparts were doing, you know, that's not what I've been called to do right now. I'm called to do this. So now that they're in school, praise God, my life back. So I do some consulting. So I do some project management kind of stuff, and I get to pick and choose my projects. And really, Sarah has been, she doesn't know this because I follow her. She has been such inspiration as far as, you know, being a mommy entrepreneur and finding different avenues for your passion. You know, when she had the gift boxes, I was like, I want to be the first one, you know? And thanks. So, you know, all those different things. And so I find those projects now that I enjoy doing. They put me a little bit back in government when I want to be, a little bit back in nonprofit world, but still allow me to do a pickup at 2:00 if I want to pick up my girls early from daycare. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm doing a little bit of nothing and a little bit of everything all at the same time. Yeah. You can see my house. I know, right? My house right now is saying that I'm doing a little bit of nothing.
Got a lot of irons in the fire. Yeah.
Literally irons still sitting out from the laundry that I did.
Right.
Finish, so.
It's like that quote you said, Julie, last episode about blooming where you're planted. I don't remember who that quote is, but that idea, like you have to create and live your identity and all out of where you are, and not try to figure it out, some pie in the sky idea, but like right here with the call I have, if I'm going to do any other thing, like, how's that going to kind of bloom from this spot?
Right. And it's growing where you're planted. And so if this is where I am and this is where I'm going to grow, then, okay, Lord, you're going to give me all the tools I need to make this thing work. You know, and it's like, okay, so if this is where I am, then it's funny, my project management stuff of working in government. Oh, wow. I mean, I can figure out, that's why the Gantt chart and the girl schedule is easy, because, you know, that was a skill set I needed to do before. Yeah. And so it's an interesting kind of, I never thought of that. I thought my career was going to be my calling. And so it was a big slap in the face. Like, God had another plan for me. That wasn't it.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I've been realizing lately is how much of life is seasons.
Bingo.
And I mean, you think we would pick up on that just from nature itself, how seasons change. But I think, when I graduated college, I had this really specific idea of what life would be like. And it did not turn out that way at all. And what I'm coming to enjoy and celebrate are different seasons, and that I may not be doing everything right this moment, but I'm enjoying what I'm doing for this season.
Miss, that's beautifully said, because seasons change. And that's something that I have to remind myself about, because I grew up in this misnomer that, and I don't know if it's because we're, 90s kids or 80s kids in the sitcom world, that you can have everything right now. Right. You can have, like, the Huxtables were my favorite.
Yeah.
So, you can have the whole family, and you can have the mom that's the attorney, and the dad that's the doctor, and and they're culturally aware, astute kids, and, and that doesn't exist.
And their outfits,
I know, are so fly.
Right?
I know, right?
Nobody has their office in their basement.
An OB, right? Aren't they like an OB in the basement?
Yeah. So
for a number of reasons, that wouldn't fly now.
I know. I loved that show. But one of the things that I had to realize were the Huxtables weren't real.
Yeah.
As much as I wanted my mom to be Claire and my dad to be, Heathcliff.
That might need to be the name of the episode.
Right.
The Huxtables weren't
real. And so, but what I think, because we grew up in that sense of we can have it all, but we can have it all. We just can't have it all right now. And so that's been the highlight of all of this, is like, I always wanted to be a mom. And then when the Lord gave me motherhood, I'm going to complain about it. Right. I've always wanted a career. I had a great career, and I have a great career. It's not that I had it. It's not that it's over. It's just my career has shifted.
It's adjusted. Yeah.
It's just adjusted a little bit, and I'm still project managing. I'm still, and I get to volunteer on campaigns that I want to go work on, and I get to, do phone banking when I want to do them. And I still get to be active in my community the way I want to be active in my community. And so, it just changed. The priorities have changed, but, I just don't, you can have everything. It just can't be right now.
Yep.
Well, clearly you are someone who is willing to see that it doesn't have to look a certain way. I mean, nobody would be able to do this, village parenting without a sense of being like, I am open to the road I'm supposed to take, the way it's supposed to look, and there may be no For Dummies book that's going to show me, because no one else on this green earth has done it this way.
Yeah. But nothing in my life has been traditional. I mean, in the sense of, as an African American female, I went to predominantly white schools. I was in the Indianapolis Children's Choir. I was singing choral music. I mean, who does that?
Where did you go to school?
I went to Cardinal Ritter. Before that, I went to St. Andrews and St. Lawrence.
Okay.
And so to say that at 13 you're going to Europe. I mean, my counterparts weren't doing that at 13, and they didn't even know. Just to say you're going to sing a xoxo mass, they're like, what is xoxo? So, I mean, there's been nothing really traditional about my life, and to be even professionally, I was a governor's intern in high school. I mean, just because of political connections that my family or my mom had, and so I've had all of these experiences, and I step back and think about it. There's been nothing in my life that has been traditional. I was 17 working at 96.3 reading the news in high school, at a radio station. So, I mean, there's been, and so why would I be surprised that it happened to me this way? I couldn't, instead of me trying to write my story, I'm just going to live my story. I'm not going to, I can't sit back and try to figure it out. That's a waste of time.
I wish you could see my face.
I know.
Because I was just, my eyes were kind of bulging out almost the entire time in my mouth. My jaw was dropped. I'm like, where is this?
You look hot.
Going?
Like that.
I know.
Yes, but that is a fascinating story.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. This is the first time I've done it publicly. So it's, and the reason why I don't think I've ever done it publicly is because I wanted to make sure that my my girls were safe, and not to think that they wouldn't be safe, but making sure that their parents are safe. And, it's a very untraditional way. And I'm like, it's their story to tell if they want to tell it. But no, we have a part in this.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's our story to tell as well. And it's, and I'm so thankful for the village that's come around us.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I mean,
that's
the
beautiful.
village that comes around us is no joke. And, they have so many uncles and aunties and family members. And I was in Texas for Thanksgiving, and my Aunt Niecy, I love that, but Aunt Niecy, my Aunt Niecy. My husband and I have this argument about who's aunt. And I'm like, she's my Aunt Niecy. But I looked on her refrigerator, and there's the girls' pictures.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's stuff like that you're like, wow.
Yeah.
These girls are, they're impacting more than just us. Their love, their unconditional love, it is absolutely amazing. And we can't help, we have to open up our hearts to them.
Yeah.
And we have to open up, we just have to. And and one of the things I was just telling the mom, because we were at the spring sale for, Indie Kid Sale.
Oh yeah.
Love Indie Kid Sale.
One of our friends runs that.
Yes. Hi, Lori. And so love Indie Kid Sale. And I was there and I'd taken their grandmother there, and we were going through clothes, and Lori walked by, and Lori said, "Do you still have the girls?" And because I had mentioned the story just in passing.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, I do." She said, "You know what? I have been praying for them."
Yeah.
So these girls are going to be just fine.
Yeah.
They're even if the Lord decides to say that your time with them is over, I know they're going to be okay. They've impacted so many people in just their junction with us. And so, and the grandma looked to me, I said, "Oh yeah, these girls are loved."
Yeah. That's so beautiful and powerful.
Yeah.
Thank you for choosing to share your story.
Thank you for having
here.
me.
Yeah.
Thank you. My first podcast. Thank you.
Yes.
Well, we are going to wrap things up with one of my favorite things, which is the mom seed. Okay, so I'm going to read off 2 answers for you, and you're going to give us your gut reaction.
Okay. Go for it.
Here we go. Disposable or cloth?
Disposable.
Bottle or breast?
That too. Bottle.
Pinterest mom or Amazon Prime mom?
Amazon Prime.
Jeans or yoga pants?
Yoga pants are so much more comfortable.
Top knot or ponytail?
Look at her cute pixie hair.
I know.
I can't do
That's probably
neither.
not going to work. Okay. Home birth or hospital?
Neither.
Chore chart or managing chaos?
Oh, managing chaos.
Gender reveal or find out when it pops out?
When it pops out.
Instagram or Facebook?
Facebook.
Homemade or store-bought?
Depends on their store-bought. Yeah, let me be honest, because we are in a church. Let me be honest.
Lullabies or sound machine?
Neither.
5 servings of veggies per day or month?
A month.
Good.
President of the PTA or I'll send in some goldfish?
No, PTA, Mom. That's me all the way.
Okay. Bubble bath and a good book or girls' night out?
Girls' night out.
Weekly meal plan or McDonald's drive-thru?
Oh my gosh. Okay.
You can see our answer right here.
No.
Tell the truth, Turae.
Okay, I'm going to tell this. I'm going to say this. It's bad when your girls wake up and say, "Mommy, I want chicken nuggets and fries."
There you go. All right, McDonald's drive-thru it is. Homeschool or go to school?
Go to school. Get out of my house.
In your home, are you freebird or robed up?
Oh, robed up.
Favorite parenting resource?
Sarah.
Favorite place to buy kids' clothes?
The Indie Kid Sale.
Awesome.
Yay.
You have completed the mom seed.
And I
Good work.
I survived.
Yes.
I survived.
Man, Sarah, you got a shout out.
I
in that
know.
one. The tables have turned. Now she is totally fangirling on Sarah.
Now I'm the top choir nerd.
I know you are. No, because it's funny because I was following her on Facebook before she even knew about the babies, and I was always marveled at her mommyhood story and how open she is. And I would read those long Facebook posts because they're long. And I would
No
sit there
unfiltered thoughts.
I know. And I would sit there thinking, wow, I have 2 friends. I have 3 friends, and I know we're wrapping up. 3 friends in particular that have gone through this mommy journey with me. And even though Sarah doesn't realize it, she was one of them. And then my other good girlfriend, Tiffany. And it's so funny, as soon as I got the girl, she was the very first person I called. And because she knew my struggle and been praying for me. And the third person I called was my other girlfriend, Patrice. She has 5 kids. Lord love her. Her and her husband have 5 children. Yeah. And her baby Jet, the last one that she just had, was just a month difference between my girls and him. But, you know, I didn't know about my girls at the time, and she called me when he was first born. And her brothers didn't even make it up there yet. And she's like, I want you to have the experience of holding the newborn and having skin to skin contact. And so those, you know, those parenting resources are so just your friends, you know, because they keep it real. You know, mom will tell you one thing. Oh, well, when I did it this way. And you're like, okay, no, seriously. I need to know how we do it right.
Spoken of.
I know.
Yep.
So, yeah. Thank you guys for having
me. The love is mutual.
Thank you so much for coming and sharing your story. Well, we hope you will come back next week on the Momnesia podcast, where we're going to share more stories before Momnesia sets in and we forget it all. Have a great week. Bye-bye.
Today's episode of Momnesia was recorded at Grace Church in Noblesville, Indiana, with original music by Phil Larson. Make sure to check out Grace's podcast, Between Sundays, and Phil's music at Spotify or iTunes.